Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show here today. It's Sunday, it's our football show, and we're ready to preview and look at some of the NFL games and our locals especially. So we're here on every Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10, live on Facebook. You can see the show at MacMan62. That will bring you to the Mac's Sports page, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Please like and share and subscribe where you can. You make your comments and ask questions live during the show if you go to at MacMan62 and like Mac Sports. Check out my personal Twitter account at MacManMcGrath. I'm Mac with my co-host Jack Hirsch, a famous boxing writer, former president of the National Boxing Writers Association, and overall sports guru. How you doing today, Jack?
I'm doing great, and what makes it kind of a nice day, I know on this football Sunday, the Jets definitely are not going to lose today.
That's true. They already got that out of the way Thursday night. Today, Jack, on the show, we have fantasy football expert Anthony Servino, who's the host of Fantasy Football Face Off, and he hosts his own show out there. And we also have a special guest coming in from Philly Sports Voice.
Joe Santoliquito.
Yes, sir. A very famous writer out there. Does a lot of great work, and he'll be coming in at 9:30. So I'd like to get to a little bit the sports update before we get into the football. Just a quick update of some of the things that are happening. The Major League Baseball postseason continues tomorrow with the Astros at the Oakland A's and the Yanks at the Rays. Tuesday, the Marlins versus the Braves, and the Padres versus the Dodgers start up. So we won't be on for those 2 days. We'll cover it when we come back on Wednesday. The NBA Finals continue tonight at 7:30 with Game 3, Jack. The Lakers versus the Heat, and the Lakers with a 2-0 lead in the series. And if Miami doesn't win tonight, I think the series is over.
Yeah, I mean, Miami's not coming back from 3-0. I mean, it's that simple. And like I said on yesterday's show, if the Lakers go up 3-0, the big focus is going to be on who's going to be the MVP for the Lakers. Is it going to be Anthony Davis or is it going to be LeBron? And if it's still up in the air, okay, and it's pretty close between the two, wow, where does the ball go to in Game 4? Of course, the Lakers are going to want to take care of business and win the game first and foremost. Everyone's aware of that. But how important are the stats going to be to both Davis and LeBron that game? Because as well as they get along and as much as each guy roots for the other's success, let's face it, everyone wants to be, a finals MVP. And that's something that disturbed some people who are close with the Golden State Warriors the couple of years that Kevin Durant got the finals MVP, because Steph Curry was there before him, and he's there obviously after Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry was never finals MVP. So it's something that's kind of a sticking point, with some players some of the time.
Yeah, I agree with that, Jack. I mean, LeBron has been runner-up a lot of years, just like Michael Jordan and some of the other great ball players. Even in this series, I mean, LeBron is leading the way with assists. He's up there with rebounds and scoring. Anthony Davis is just a tremendous athlete, and he's LeBron has kind of given, I think, in my opinion, kind of given the team two Anthony Davis like he did a long time ago with Dwayne Wade.
Well, run up with LeBron, that's in the MVP voting, but LeBron has a chance to make history, be the first player ever to win a finals MVP award with three different teams.
Right.
He won it with Cleveland, he won it with Miami, and now he has a chance to win it with the Lakers. And this year it seemed to be a race between him and Kawhi Leonard, who would be the first in history, because Kawhi Leonard won it with San Antonio, he won it with Toronto, and he was on the Clippers, who a lot of people, including yours truly, thought was going to win the NBA title in the beginning of the year. So this is a golden opportunity for LeBron, to really make history. Three different teams, finals MVP each one. And Anthony Davis has never won it. So obviously he wants to win it. And Anthony Davis in the next couple of years, his name might come into the discussion as being the best player in the NBA.
Right. I agree with that, Jack. So that's it for the updates. Like I said, we got the baseball and the NBA finals coming up Monday and the NBA finals today. So let's look a little bit about football news here. With Cam Newton, according to reports, he has the COVID virus, and I think they also, where I read, where the quarterback on the practice squad is the other one that has it. So the Pats and Chiefs game has been postponed to maybe Monday or Tuesday, depending on the testing of both teams. I just read where the Patriots has tested all their other players. They seem to be clean. So they're thinking about postponing to Monday or Tuesday. And, of course, both teams are in consultation within the infectious experts, both clubs and the NFL. Players Association is evaluating both teams. This should come as no surprise, Jack, right? I mean, we knew this was going to happen.
No, but I don't know how they're going to work this out. This isn't baseball where you just postpone a game and then slot it in on an off day. I mean,
Right.
Because the games always have to be spread out in the NFL. You can't have guys play on a Friday and then come back 2 days later and play.
Right. Correct.
So it's very difficult to scheduling how they're going to do it. I mean, if you're delaying a Sunday game to a Monday or even a Tuesday and then they play the following Sunday, you can get away with it. But this is going to be very difficult, especially if you have just one player or one coach test positive. That throws everything into turmoil.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as you see what they did with the Titans and the Steelers right now, they're trying to reschedule it down the league and kind of change the schedule a little bit where they can play each other and change their bye weeks. But with New England and with the Patriots, it looks like they're going to try and play it within the next couple of days so it doesn't throw off their schedule. The Patriots would just start a different quarterback. So they're trying to get it in the next couple of days, Jack, so it can kind of stay somewhat of a normalcy for them two teams.
Mac, but a bigger issue is what are they going to do if this problem persists come playoff time?
Right.
You can't push a playoff game back and then have the winning team come back and play 3 or 4 days later and be at a disadvantage to a team that's more well-rested.
Right, I agree.
And what about the Super Bowl? What are they going to do? Someone tests positive the day before the Super Bowl. Are they then going to then move it a week back and then move it a week back again?
Yeah, I mean, but Jack, they knew this was going to happen. They knew that somebody or some team was going to catch this. They're trying to be all over it. We had Byron Williams on, and he said that they've been working, they've been on top of it, and they do have some kind of a plan in place if something happens. I know baseball was talking about when they were doing it to where they would go off a percentage, and that didn't work. That didn't happen. They actually played the game. So I think football, following baseball's their policy, the way they did it this year, I think that unless we have a some kind of serum where we can go get a shot for this stuff, which is soon to be coming from what I hear, I think we're going to have this problem, Jack, the whole year. So until and when the playoffs do come, as you say, what happens then? Maybe they just move it to two stadiums like they did, or 4 stadiums like they did in basketball, like they're planning to do with baseball. I'm not sure, but we did all know that this was definitely going to happen.
Well, yeah, I'll give the leagues credit. They've been doing a better job, especially baseball, than I thought they'd be doing. I didn't think the baseball season would get this far as it has. And it's what I would have actually done was taken four teams and put them in a bubble, much the way the NBA did, and have them just the four of them keep playing one another, then another four in another area play one another, and play it out that way till the playoffs. But there's
Yeah.
a lot of traveling. The schedule is diverse. They go back and forth, and there are the risks involved. And the
Yeah.
thing is, it's not just like an injury situation. If one player catches it, you don't just put him on isolation for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It potentially affects everyone.
I agree. I definitely agree. I guess, and Byron did bring up on another quick note on that it was mainly staff members at Titans that caught this, where maybe they're not following the same protocol the players are following. Staying away from people and everything, and the players are going to have some kind of contact, at least through the coach, with with the organization itself, not the players. So maybe they've got to kind of take a closer look at the rest of the management of these teams. Yeah.
Well, Jerry Jones, when he heard Tennessee had a few cases, and I don't know what Jerry Jones is talking about, but he thinks there should be penalties for Tennessee. I mean, like what? Like, should they lose a draft choice or two?
Yeah, right.
Unless there were protocols in place that weren't followed, okay, by people in the front office. If that were the case, yeah, they should lose a draft choice or whatever. There should be penalties, but otherwise it's kind of impossible to tell sometimes where someone caught it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that, Jack. And I mean, you're going to penalize something. I mean, you can limit yourself to catching the corona. You can do things, but it's hard to avoid human contact. I mean,
Yeah.
It's not like you see it coming. It catches you. It's silent. It's invisible. So I mean, I think Jerry Jones just loves to be in the spotlight, Jack. That's all.
Yeah, well, listen. I mean, Jerry had a mask on when he said it.
Right, right.
I mean, I believe I saw Mike McCarthy with his nose exposed on the sideline.
Yeah.
If I'm mistaken. So I don't think Jerry said anything about that.
No, I don't think he would. So
Yeah.
let's look at the preview, all the Sunday games first. We got Cleveland at Dallas. We got Jacksonville playing San Diego. We got the Colts at the Bears. The Arizona Cardinals at the Panthers. We got the Baltimore Ravens at Washington. And we got the Chargers at Tampa Bay, Seattle at Miami, Minnesota at Houston, New Orleans playing Detroit, and Atlanta versus Green Bay on Monday night. So besides the locals, that's what we have for a lineup. Jack, what do you think? What is the most game that intrigues you out of all those games other than the locals?
The game that intrigued me the most, and being selfish, I mean, as soon as I heard it was postponed, I mean, I was looking forward to New England at Kansas City.
Yeah.
Because Kansas City had this massively big game against Baltimore on Monday in which they won. And it's human nature to have a letdown. And New England was really primed for that game. And it was going to give us a good indication of how New England was going to fare post-Tom Brady. Okay? If Kansas City was going to blow out New England, then New England was just going to probably have a so-so year.
Yeah.
But if New England was going to upset Kansas City, I mean, imagine the excitement that was going to create, especially with Cam Newton at the helm. And it was a game I was really looking forward to because you could Bill Belichick time to prepare. And there's no one really, better than him in that case. The game that I think intrigues me the most, though, is the Cleveland-Dallas game.
Yeah,
there's a saying, this is it. I'm getting tired of waiting on the Cowboys' potential. I thought they were going to go to the Super Bowl last year. They got off to a great start, but in their last 15 regular season games, they've lost 10.
Yeah.
They've lost, in other words, every time they win a game, they lose 2 on average over the last 15. That's what it comes down to. And a couple of the losses I can understand. They're playing a good Seattle team. They lose a close game. But I don't want to hear all the talk because they stole a game against Atlanta. They could easily be 0-3 instead of 1-2. And between the Cleveland Browns and the Dallas Cowboys, those are the two biggest underachievers in the NFL. Two
Yeah.
biggest underachievers. The Cleveland Browns last year were supposed to take their big step. They were supposed to be around 10-6, be a playoff team. And by this year, they were supposed to be a serious Super Bowl contender. Yet we don't know at 2-1 what they're really bringing to the table yet.
Yeah.
They got Odell Beckham from the Giants last year. That was supposed to propel them to another level, and that hasn't really worked out to be anything, special at all. So between the, Cleveland and Dallas, if one of them wins the game decisively, it could, be the start of really taking off, fulfilling their potential. And for the team that loses the game, basically it's the same, old story. I mean, Dallas is favored by 4.5 points. I'm just hedging my bets, just thinking the Dallas team that I think has all this outstanding talent is finally going to show up, win by more than 4.5 points, and start taking off and, making a serious Super Bowl run. I'm not saying they're going to get there. I don't think they will. But they're going to win the NFC East and maybe go deep into the playoffs.
Well, I agree with you about the NFC East going deep in the playoffs. I don't. I think Dallas to me. I don't know if it's got to be their defense and especially the secondary. They have a lot of problems stopping other teams that are as good as they are. Cleveland is going to have to run the ball to beat Dallas. That I know. And Baker Mayfield is going to have to be a lot more accurate and get him. The Dallas Cowboys have a decent pass rush. They have a good linebacker crew where they're healthy, but the secondary has always had problems when they play good teams. Cleveland, as you said, I agree with almost everything you said, Jack. They got a new head coach. Dallas has a new head coach. We'll see what happens. That does intrigue me. And another one that intrigues me is the Seattle-Miami game. And for a certain reason there, I think Seattle is one of the best teams in NFC. There's no doubt about it. They're due for a letdown. Miami, if Fitzpatrick plays as he's capable of, he goes on some runs where he'll throw for 400 or 500 yards in like 2 or 3 games in a row. And then after that little run, he starts throwing interceptions and he comes back down to earth. I would love to see Miami. I think Seattle may take them a little bit for granted. I would love to see Miami jump up and play them really close, if not win the game this week. I wouldn't bet my house on it, I'll tell you that. But I would love to see Miami give Seattle a good game to see if somebody else in the AFC East will challenge besides the Bills and maybe the Pats.
Well, last year, Seattle won so many close games that a lot of people took that into consideration in not making them a serious Super Bowl contender this year, because usually you win a lot of close games one year. You're not going to do it the next year. It's called law of averages.
Right.
Seattle is apparently, they're for real. They've taken it up a notch and so on. And even with Jamal Adams, who they got from Jets in a big trade, even with him being out, the Seattle, secondary is fine. Their defense is fine. And what struck me last week was, Russell Wilson. Maybe we've taken him for granted. I mean, we know he's a future Hall of Famer, but his name never comes in the discussion when you talk about the best quarterbacks in the league. Over the years, we wouldn't say he's on the level of Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. In fact, when Peyton Manning was a free agent, Pete Carroll showed up at Peyton Manning's home, hoping to make a quick signing to convince him. And Seattle had Russell Wilson at the time.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of poetic justice where Seattle would beat Peyton Manning's Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl right after that. But to watch Russell Wilson stretch the field against the Cowboys when they beat them at the end of the game, and Dak Prescott wasn't able to stretch the field, should maybe give you a little idea of the difference of quarterbacks. Zach Prescott, very good quarterback, but Russell Wilson, an exceptional one. As far as Miami goes, you mentioned Ryan Fitzpatrick, ultimate team player, ultimate team guy. His attitude is this year, he's getting Tua Tagovailoa ready to be the number one quarterback. He understands Tua was drafted very high for a reason. So Fitzpatrick isn't taking the attitude, well, I'm trying to keep my job or keep this guy off the field. He's trying to get him ready for when the time comes. Being a great, great teammate. Tua's learning a lot from him. And the other day, Ryan Fitzpatrick said, Tua makes throws that I can never do, trying to build them up. And Miami, don't forget, knocked New England off their home field advantage last year in the playoffs when they beat them the last game of the regular season. Miami's really getting much better under their head coach, Brian Flores, and they're really a team of the future.
Yeah, I mean, I Russell Wilson, I'm an old timer like you, Jack, and Russell Wilson reminds me so much of Fran Tarkenton, how he can make moves, get out of that pocket, stretch the field out, and wait for somebody to get open. He's accurate. He's something else. I mean, if you put a video of Fran Tarkenton and him together, it would be hard to see a different style. They both were smaller quarterbacks, and both had a great feel for the game. I think Tarkenton started the West Coast offense before there was a West Coast offense. So I really respect Russell Wilson. I think he's one of the best in the league for the past 5 years, really. I mean, he's a really great quarterback.
Let me tell you another thing, Mac. He comes to the New York Yankees training camp for like a week or so every year. The Yankees know he's not playing baseball, but he comes there. They let him work out with the team because he could have potentially been a major leaguer.
Yeah.
And he loves baseball. He loves that 1 week. And the Yankees like the idea of Russell Wilson being able to impart his leadership qualities amongst the guys. They love having him around, which kind of makes you think of the Arizona Cardinal quarterback, Kyler Murray. Oakland Athletics badly wanted to sign him, and they still could sign him.
Right. I definitely agree with that. I don't see that happening, but I do agree that he was a great baseball player. Also, one other game I want to talk about real quick is the Minnesota Houston Texans game. Everybody had big. I mean, I know it's only the fourth game, but everybody had high expectations for the Vikings. They thought they might win the division this year, and the same thing with the Texans. Everybody had, even though they got rid of their best receiver. They still got that athletic playmaking quarterback. They still got a few good receivers in the deal. Not as good as Hopkins, but three decent receivers. Their defense is pretty good, to almost really good. I don't know what happened to these two teams this year, especially Minnesota. I mean, that defensive run the ball kind of thing, and that quarterback over there that sometimes looks great and sometimes, when he gets in the big games like on Monday night and stuff like that, he seems to fall short. So what do you think about those two teams?
I think it's a steal, Minnesota with four points. That's the last I heard. They were 4-point underdog. Minnesota should win the game. Minnesota really is a good team. For whatever reason, they just got off to a slow start. I think this is their turnaround day. In Houston, the Heat's really going to start on their head coach, Bill O'Brien. If it hasn't started already, people can't figure out the Hopkins deal. I mean, what they got in return isn't what they could have gotten in return if they held on to him a while longer. It's like they were so anxious to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins for whatever reason. They just made a quick deal with Arizona, and it was a steal with Arizona to get the deal. And you make a deal like that, and you're arguably, in all due respect to Deshaun Watson, because DeAndre Hopkins is more established, you trade away your best player, and you don't get a big haul in return. What does that say to the rest of the players on the team? I mean, what are they thinking? You didn't increase their chances of going to the Super Bowl. And Houston, as it was, was a good team. I mean, they were a playoff team last year. And people forget they jumped off to a 24-0 lead against the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. And then
True,
their
true.
defense just completely fell apart. And maybe I should say Kansas City's high-powered offense behind Patrick Mahomes went into full gear. But Houston was a good team as is, and it's just going to start getting ugly at Houston. But because there is talent on that team and they can win, and the issue a lot of people have is with the coach. So
Yes.
when you talk about someone on the hot seat, they're not really saying Bill O'Brien's on the hot seat, but that seat's going to start getting a little bit warm, I think, after today.
I agree with you there, Jack. I mean, we won't be on the air tomorrow for Monday night, so I want to jump to that really quick, and we'll get to the locals during the show definitely. Now you got Atlanta versus Green Bay. Atlanta at the end of the year looked like a playoff team. I mean, they were winning. They Matt Ice was playing well. The defense looked like it was playing well. Green Bay right now is on fire. I mean, they look like maybe one of the top 2-3 teams in the NFC right now. And Aaron Rodgers is playing like the old Aaron Rodgers. Their running game seems to be good. Their defense seems to be good. Does Atlanta have a shot here to catch maybe Green Bay napping Monday night?
Oh yeah, I mean Atlanta has a good chance. Atlanta, they're winless, but they've lost tough games. I mean, Atlanta always you talk about teams that always find a way to win. Atlanta always finds a way to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, one way or another, I mean, they just haven't, traditionally over the last few years, haven't closed out games. And their window as a Super Bowl contender is basically closed, even though some people were picking them to be a playoff team this year. Yeah. They're just like not that good of a team. But on a given day, yeah, Atlanta can beat anyone. I mean,
Chicago. Go ahead.
Matt Ryan's legacy is going to be a hard one to figure out. Had they won that game against New England, where they were up 28-3 in the Super Bowl, he would have had the legacy as a Super Bowl winning quarterback, a Hall of Famer, so on. And who knows what to make out of Matt Ryan's career. I mean, actually, I guess today Joe Santoliquito knows him very well from Pennsylvania.
Right.
So, yeah. But, and the thing with Aaron Rodgers, people are saying, and I don't buy this at all, he has something to prove this year because the Packers moved up in the draft to take Jordan Love.
Right.
And
no, that was Hurst. That was Jason Hurst, my friend. Hurst. They got Hurst.
No. You have to think the Eagles. I'm talking about the Packers.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant the Eagles. Yeah. My bad. Okay, go ahead.
Right.
Yes. Sorry.
And Wentz.
Right.
You always think ahead, Mac.
I'm thinking about Joe. Yes. My bad.
Tell the viewers out there.
My bad.
The listeners talking.
Yes, Jordan Love.
Football later. And Mac always thinks 6-7 steps ahead in the moment.
Thanks for covering.
In the moment, I'm thinking in the past what we already talked about.
Thanks for the cover, Jack. But you are right. Go ahead. You are right.
Aaron Rodgers, okay? People say he has something to prove. And Aaron Rodgers was ticked off not only because the Packers took a quarterback in the first round and they didn't take a wide receiver, someone who could help them, because the Packers traditionally have never drafted players who could help Aaron Rodgers. That's like having Picasso, but not giving him the right materials to, paintings with.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the thing is, people under the impression, well, Aaron Rodgers is now playing harder. He wants to show the Packers they made a mistake. Aaron Rodgers is going to play just as hard. He wants to win just as bad.
Sure.
I mean, what maybe bothers Aaron Rodgers a little more are the whispers of people saying, well, is one Super Bowl enough for him? Because when you have a quarterback that great, you want at least a pair, a couple of Super Bowls. To me, you wouldn't win over your career. That's fantastic for your legacy.
Sure.
But sometimes the other people, one doesn't quite do it, as much as, a second one.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers is no doubt first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no doubt about that. But I just see that Green Bay is clicking, not just with Aaron Rodgers, but the whole team is clicking this year. People forget that they went to the championship last year, and whether they got beat bad by San Francisco or not is beside the point this year. And people seem to forget how good Green Bay really is. So with that, Jack, we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring in our guest, Anthony Servino. He's our fantasy update, as I said, fantasy expert. We'll get back to the locals later, but let's bring in one of the best in the business, Anthony Servino, and his fantasy football face-off. Yes, sir.
Good morning, boys. What's going on?
How you doing? We were just talking about previewing the NFL games, talking about Green Bay and how good a team they really are, and people seem to forget that. And they went to the championship last year, and when they talk about the favorites, Green Bay's like down on the list. So that's what we were just talking about before you came in, Anthony. So let's get to the friend of the show. As I said, he's the host of Fantasy Football Face Off. He's been doing fantasy football for a long time. Very knowledgeable man. And thanks for coming in, Anthony. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, Anthony, as I discussed in the past, we've had you on different shows with me. We had like 2 different shows before this one. I'm not very knowledgeable in the fantasy department. I did join in 2 leagues, Anthony, and in one I picked the best players available. I'm number 1 in that right now. And then I try to use a strategy in the second one, and I'm last.
What strategy did you use?
Well, I took mainly Cleveland Brown offensive players. I took Chubbs. I took the running back. I took their tight end, and so I tried to see if that would work. Where Hunt and Chubb could add points to my team, and the tight end was supposed to be really good. And of course, Baker hasn't played that great. I didn't take Baker Mayfield, but that one I'm last, and I've come close a couple face-offs, but I'm last there. So I guess the best thing to do, Anthony, is pick the best available, right?
That's always what I try to do. There are all different strategies in fantasy, but sometimes when you go in with the strategy, you have to be open-minded and you have to pivot, because if you're just sticking to the strategy, a lot of times you're going to pass up on value, and value is what's going to win you fantasy football. Like, you haven't played in a long time. You have one team that's in first place because you picked the best guys available. On the other side, you gambled. If Cleveland's offense, they're talented. If they actually popped, you're in better shape. But Austin Hooper, he didn't look like a good pick going into the season because he was not going to get the volume of targets as he had in Atlanta. So that was one thing wrong with an Austin Hooper. What you did with the running backs, I'm on board with. I think you can stack Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb and be extremely profitable from it. But that tight end position, you just got to get rid of him. He is cuttable right now.
I definitely will, Anthony. I got a question for you now on the injuries, and now with the COVID with Cam Newton. Do you bring up your guy on the bench and play him, or do you maybe make a trade or try to get rid of him and pick up a new player to fill that vacancy? What is the best strategy when it comes to that?
Well, if you have a bench quarterback, that's going to be your best option, because Cam has been playing extremely well. He's one of the better fantasy quarterbacks right now because he likes to run with the football and he scores on the ground. But he's not going to play tomorrow or Tuesday, whenever that game is going to be played. And he probably won't play in week 5 either, because per league rules, you have to pass 2 COVID tests within a period of time. So you're probably not going to have Cam Newton for the next 2 games. But,
right.
There's enough quarterbacks on the free agent pool, or if you have one on your bench, where you're not going to – you don't have to make a crazy trade and give up value to go get a quarterback. There's something there you can stream and just play the best matchup. Like if Nick Foles is there, you can pick him up. I don't love his matchup this week, but usually guys like Foles, Tannehill, I'm trying to think who else could be there. A Joe Burrow can be there, a Baker Mayfield could be there. So there's enough on the waiver wire to get by.
Okay, great. A lot of people took with their first pick they took, either Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley. Has that destroyed their teams this year? Are they in the water, or can they come back out of that?
You can come back out of it. Now, Christian McCaffrey, he's obviously going to be back very soon compared to Saquon, where he's out. But it all depends on how you drafted. If you drafted good running back depth, or if you picked up a player on waivers, like a guy like James Robinson, undrafted free agent, became the starter in Jacksonville because they moved off of Fournette and their other two backs, Armstead and Ozigbo. They ended up on the injured reserve list, and James Robinson looks like a stud. So if you had a Saquon Barkley and you have James Robinson, you're fine. Or in a Christian McCaffrey case, if you have Mike Davis, or even if you're not a Christian McCaffrey owner, if you're a Saquon owner and you picked up Mike Davis, you can get through the next 4 games, and then you have to plan on once McCaffrey comes back. But, nothing's ever dead in fantasy football, at least to me. You can always come back.
I've heard a lot of people, Anthony, when that happened, there was a big sigh and people would put their heads down.
Well, I mean, they're the top 2 players, in fantasy. So, of course, there's going to be a big hit. But all the first-round picks, even Michael Thomas, he's missed time too. DeAndre Hopkins is dealing with an ankle right now. So, Joe Mixon's off to a slow start. Nick Chubb splits playing time. So it's tough all the way around.
Yeah, definitely. If now we've talked about this before, and you said Daniel Jones was one of your favorite pickups. If you have Daniel Jones or Carson Wentz at QB right now, do you sit them until they can prove that they can get something going? I mean, or do you just keep hoping that they play better?
I don't think you could put Carson Wentz in right now, and it's more to do with everything that's happening around him, because he already had the wide receiver issues coming in, and that Dallas Goedert loss was significant. So Wentz, I'm going to shy away from. Daniel Jones, as much as I hyped him up, I also told everybody the first 3 to 4 weeks is going to be rough with the schedule. Yeah. I think it's going to open up. It has a shot to open up this week against the Rams, but I think the schedule is going to open up, week 5 and moving forward, and we're going to see this offense begin to click a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that offensive line is just terrible, Anthony. It's really not Daniel Jones' fault, really. It's just the offensive line.
I don't know how either, because they drafted the left tackle, Andrew Thomas, who was said to be the safest of all the incoming first-round left tackles. And their offensive line played a little bit better last year, so I think it's just a timing thing right now. I know you're going against San Francisco, Pittsburgh. Who did they open up with against week 2? Who was week 2?
Week 2, they had Pittsburgh. Who was week 2, Jack? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Let me see.
No, I'm sorry.
Week 2, they played okay to the Bears. The Bears.
So they're all tough defenses. So it's only a matter of time before the schedule opens up for Daniel Jones and the rest of that offense.
Yeah, definitely. So is Josh Allen the biggest surprise of fantasy football this year?
Yes and no, because there's always a quarterback that you can get where you were drafting Josh Allen. He was being drafted as maybe the 8th to 10th quarterback off the board, depending on your league. A couple of years ago, that was Dak Prescott. A couple of years ago, that was Lamar Jackson. And now they're at the top of their game. So there's always one that seems to sneak up, and it's usually one who uses his legs as well as his arm. Right. But they brought on Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen, he's not the most accurate quarterback in the world, but what he brings with his legs, like last year, he finished second to Lamar Jackson in almost every rushing category. That right there bolstered Josh Allen's fantasy value. Then they bring on Diggs, and they're airing it out all over the place. So, yes, it's a surprise that he's playing this well, but I expected him to be a pretty good fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any matchups for people that are playing DraftKings and leagues like that? Is there any matchups this coming week where you can go team against team, and that's probably the best matchups for you this Sunday and even Monday night?
There are 2 games that I love on this slate, and I have them in a lot of my lineups. And number 1 is the Lions and the Saints with, Matthew Stafford, TJ Hawkinson, Marvin Jones, and Kenny Golladay are all usable this week. And you could do a quad stack or even a triple stack over there. The Saints defense, they weren't playing well, and now you're going to be without Marshawn Lattimore, the best cover corner. They're decimated on the defensive side of the ball. There's no Michael Thomas. So I love the Detroit Lions Lions in daily fantasy. I actually love the Detroit Lions to win this game outright.
Wow.
If you're betting, I love Detroit this week.
Wow.
And the other game I love is Houston, Minnesota. It's very sneaky because Houston is off to a slow start too. But when you have Deshaun Jackson and all those weapons, you're getting the Vikings, who they're normally a good defense. And if you saw all their player losses this offseason, I didn't expect them to be good. And then they lose Anthony Barr 2 weeks ago. He's on IR. So the middle of their defense is now decimated. This is the week where Houston's offense comes alive. And a lot of their fantasy guys in daily fantasy, like a David Johnson, he's 5,600 on DraftKings. The top backs are between 7 and 8. David Johnson's a tremendous value this week.
Wow. How about Monday night? What do you think about there, Anthony? You got Green Bay playing Atlanta. A lot of big time. You got Matty Ice. You got Aaron Rodgers. You got pretty good running backs there too. What do you see for a matchup there?
That's another friendly fantasy matchup. The thing I'm worried about is the wide receiver situation with Devontae Adams. He missed last week. He looks like he's going to play, but on the Atlanta side, it looks like Justin Gage, who missed last week with the concussion, he's going to be a go. But the big ones, Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones, they're both game time decisions. So when you're setting fantasy lineups and DFS lineups, it's a Monday night game, I might want to look elsewhere and not risk it.
Okay, I got you. Unless the injury report comes in, they're saying they're going to play. But I mean, what kind of quality can that guarantee you? I mean, that injury report has got to be very important if you're playing fantasy football. It's got to be unbelievable.
Yeah, the injury report is everything. And so are the reports coming out from like Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter overnight, Saturday into Sunday. They usually give a little bit of insight. We should have something on the playing status of these wide receivers tomorrow night, sometime today.
Okay, great. A couple of local things. We not only cover the New York sports, we do New England and Philly here. Any chance on the Patriots are postponed right now, so we don't know what's going to happen with them, whether they are going to play Monday and Cam may not play, or Tuesday and Cam will not play anyway.
Cam's out.
Yeah, he's out for a couple of weeks. So I mean, they would either have to go with Stillman or their other backup quarterback over there.
It's going to be Brian Hoyer.
Is it going to be Brian Hoyer? That's what you got? Oh, wow. Holy cow. I'm surprised because there was talk they were going to start Stillman this year. So
I think it's more of a, Belichick might feel a little bit more comfortable with Brian Hoyer. But I think at some point, Cam's on a 1-year deal right now, and he's probably not the future, right? You would want to see what Jarrett Stidham's going to give you, and maybe the Patriots are like, hey, we're winning games right now. If we feel safe for going Hoyer, like if they were out of it, if they were 0-3,
right,
I think we would see Stidham. But there's no guarantee Brian Hoyer is going to play well anyway, so we might see Stidham anyway.
If Stidham plays a couple of games and does really well, is there a guarantee that Cam Newton reclaims the job immediately?
Cam will be back. I think Cam's going to be back.
I believe that's right too. Do you see any player for the Giants that might stand out against the Rams? I mean, receiver, running back, anybody that might. I mean, I know the Rams have a great front four rushing. The passer, their defense against the rush has never been the best. I mean, you can run on the Rams somewhat. Do you see any running back for the Giants, or maybe Ingram having a decent game against them?
The Rams defense, they're really in the middle of the pack against fantasy quarterbacks and fantasy running backs, but they do give up some production to the wide receiver position. Okay. I would look at like a Darius Slayton to get open for a couple of big plays. This might be a game where Evan Ingram gets involved. Okay,
that's what I was thinking. And with the Bills going to the Raiders are surprising everybody. People made fun of John Gruden, but he's showing that he knows what he's doing over there. What do you see there for the Bills? Do you expect Josh Allen to have a big game, or for Stephon Diggs to have a big game?
Las Vegas, their defense right now, they're actually surprising me. Now, they give up a ton of production on the ground. They're number one to fantasy points allowed to the running back position, but they're the complete opposite. They don't give up a ton of quarterbacks. They're in the bottom 5 and fewest fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position, to the wide receiver position, the tight end position, but they haven't really played a Josh Allen yet. Josh Allen's red hot. I think this is going to be more of a shootout.
Okay, okay. And the last one that's definitely going to be playing, you got Philadelphia. The 49ers are still a little banged up. I guess Kittle's going to play this week.
Mhm.
Do you see anything for Philly that maybe they could take advantage on the 49ers at all?
I mean, if you can get Miles Sanders going on the ground, he's their most dynamic player. He was their best player on offense right now. I think it gives you a shot. But Jason Peters was just placed on IR. That offensive line was already missing starters, and now Jason Peters, who was filling in and a longtime starter in Philly, he's now gone. It's going to be a rough day for Philadelphia. It's going to be a rough season for Philadelphia, and despite what Doug Peterson says, it would not surprise me if this game gets out of hand if we don't see Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I really believe that I don't know what's up with Wentz. I have no idea. I think Hurst will get some playing time this week, if not a lot of playing time.
Since that Super Bowl win, and I wish I had the stat. I had the stat in front of me on my show earlier in the week. But since their Super Bowl, I think Philly only has like 10 wins against winning teams.
Yeah. I mean,
most of their wins is against is NFC East opponent. It's Washington and New York. That's most of their wins.
Yes, it's very true, and I respect their coaching staff because they've done a lot with a little there. I really do. A lot of injuries, and they've really put a decent team together over there, and sneaking in and beating out Dallas a couple times. The last thing I wanted to ask you, Anthony, is when you're looking forward to next week's games, not this week, but the following week's games, is when you're setting your team up. Again, are you looking for matchups with the defense versus the offense? Or are you just going with the feeling with this quarterback's hot, I'm staying with him? Or are you more looking for this quarterback is better against this team?
I always love playing the matchup, but when you have a stud, you're not going to bench like Patrick Mahomes in a bad matchup.
Yeah,
you're going to play your studs no matter what the matchup is. But if you're in between two players, usually the tiebreaker for me is the matchup or the quarterback. Like if you have a wide receiver or two wide receivers, who has a better quarterback?
Yeah, because I mean the Ravens were supposed to kind of shut Pat down a little bit, and that didn't happen. He had a hell of a game. So okay, Anthony, that's it, Jack. Jack, you got anything for Anthony before we?
No. I'm fascinated. I'm a newcomer to fantasy football.
We're both novice.
Welcome.
Yes.
Interesting. Does a running quarterback have an advantage and a big advantage in fantasy football?
Absolutely. In fantasy football, if you can get your hands on one of those top-end running quarterbacks, like what I said about Josh Allen, what he brings with his legs, even Lamar Jackson, it makes up for their passing deficiencies. Whereas like a Patrick Mahomes, he has the weapons around him. He can be a pocket passer, but he's a runner second. These other guys are essentially runners first, whether the team wants to sell them to us as runners first or not. That's what they are.
So did Sam Darnold's stock in fantasy football go up a little bit with that running?
No. Darnold is done until they fire Adam Gase. And I hate talking about coaches getting fired, but he has no business being in the NFL right now.
I'm with you 100%, Anthony. Thank you for coming in. Hope you're back with us next week, Anthony.
Absolutely.
Great information again, my friend. You have a great Sunday.
Have a good Sunday, guys.
Thank you very much. So there you go, Jack. That's our fantasy expert, which will I kind of learned a little bit about fantasy from him already over the few visits I had with him. So hopefully you get involved in it and
start. Not too impressed with the Jets either.
Well, I don't think anybody's impressed with the Jets too much. Not even the Jets fans this year. So anyway, that's the great Anthony Servino. He's one of my favorite guys to have on the show. So we got a little time to cover here before we have our special guest coming in, Joe Santacolo. Say it for me. Thank you, sir.
It took me a year and a half before.
Well, guess what? I got it. See, I got it up on a banner, so when I bring him in, look at that. I can say Santa Loquita.
Call him for short. Call him what Max Kellerman calls him, Joe Santo.
Joe Santo? That makes it easy, right?
Think of Ron Santo, the old Cub third baseman.
Yes.
I'm sure his last name wasn't Santa Loquita, but maybe it was.
Yes, sir. So Jack, we stopped where we were at, and ending with Anthony Servino. Again, he's he likes matchups. He likes to see the team playing a team. But he says for you, Jack, when you do get in fantasy football, if you've got a hot quarterback, somebody that's like a Patrick Mahomes or a Aaron Rodgers, stay with him. It doesn't matter what the matchup is. So there you go.
Yeah, interesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
And he's a little high on the Houston Texans than I am.
Yeah.
A breakout game for them. Well, I think Minnesota's going to win today, but we'll see. At least Minnesota will cover the 4 points, but I think they'll win outright. But we shall see.
Yes, we shall. So in the locals, Jack, let's get to that. We haven't finished covering them yet. We got the Giants against the Rams, the Bills against the surprising Raiders, and the Philadelphia Eagles versus the 49ers. I think the most intriguing game out of all of those, Jack, is the Bills and the Raiders. And what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think the Raiders are that surprising. They came close to making the playoffs last year. It came down to the final game of the season, and it's already John Gruden's second year with the team. So, and they brought Gruden there. He's a win now type of a guy. Also. So I don't think the Raiders really that big of a surprise. I mean, the Buffalo Bills are really building something. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Yeah.
And the question of whether Josh Allen was going to be their franchise quarterback is starting to get answered. It's only been a few games into the season, but the glory days in Buffalo look like they're going to be coming back.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of intrigued with the Raiders because, being a former coach, Jack, I look at a game sometimes from that angle more than watching where the ball goes. And when Gruden was coaching even Tampa, and a lot of people thought that it was a prior coach that built that team for him, and that could be, but he still led him to the Super Bowl. He's a great coach, a great analyst. He knows the game. A lot of people, after he traded Khalil Mack and a few other players, a lot of experts out there, so-called experts, they were saying he didn't know what he was doing, that, why would you trade somebody like Khalil Mack? It doesn't matter how many.
I'm not sure he was responsible for the Khalil Mack trade to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, he's pretty much a general manager there too, Jack. I mean, he runs a show. So
I think Mike Mayock has a more the responsibility, but I can't say I'm certain about that. I mean, they work in tandem.
True.
But then again, why would Gruden have taken the job in the first place? And he signed a 10-year contract,
right?
Unless he was going to have a lot of say over the personnel.
Well, what I heard is that he actually had a offer of a small percentage of ownership. That's what I've read and heard. I don't know if that's true or not.
The answer why I took it.
But I imagine he had the yes or no whether they traded Khalil Mack. I mean, they're not gonna say we're gonna trade Khalil Mack whether you like it or not.
Now, there's a funny Khalil Mack story. When New England was going to play Chicago, they were asking Bill Belichick all these questions about Khalil Mack. Is he, one of the best he ever saw? And then someone said, is he the next Lawrence Taylor? And Bill Belichick coached Lawrence Taylor for years when he was the defensive coordinator for the Giants. And Bill Belichick doesn't like to get involved with any type of controversy, any type of debate. He likes to be short to the point. Him doing these press conferences, I think he looks more forward to sitting in the dentist chair than doing that. But when they mentioned Khalil Mack in the same breath as Lawrence Taylor, Bill Belichick said, we're talking about Lawrence Taylor here.
Right.
That was his way of saying, like, are you kidding me? How do you put anyone on Lawrence Taylor's level?
Yeah.
So that was that interesting story and so on. But John Gruden, listen, John Gruden won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, he's an excellent coach, and there are two ways to look at it. He took over for Tony Dungy, and he won the Super Bowl in his first year. Now, does that make him a better coach than Dungy? But the team they beat, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that year, were the Oakland Raiders.
Right.
And John Gruden had coached the Oakland Raiders all the years. So you could look at it another way. The first year that John Gruden did not coach the Oakland Raiders, they went to the Super Bowl. The Oakland
Yes.
Raiders couldn't go to the Super Bowl under John Gruden, but they did the first year he wasn't with them. Even
Right.
though John Gruden beats the Oakland Raiders in the Super Bowl, but just the idea that Oakland was there, would they have gotten there without John Gruden? I mean, he's a good coach. He talk about a guy who lives football. I mean, that's truly his life. I mean, it seems. I mean, football, he's focused completely. But John Gruden, once again, very good coach, but I'm not sure he's the best talent evaluator. He's the guy who wanted to take Johnny Manziel, recommended number 1 overall in the NFL draft. And as it turned out, Manziel went something like number 24.
Yeah.
He hasn't really cut it in the NFL. But Gruden would have taken him with the first overall pick.
Yeah. That's very true. That's very true. But again, I think even with the Khalil Mack, Lawrence Taylor comparison is uncomparable, because Khalil Mack really plays in a 4-3, really plays defensive end. It's not really an outside linebacker. So, I mean, that's an unfair comparison to begin with. But how can you compare anybody as a pass rusher to Lawrence Taylor, what he did at the linebacker position? I don't know.
A large part of it was the coaching, because he was given freedom.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Freedom and different type of defenses to utilize his skill, his athletic talents. I mean,
sure.
Incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. His, athletic talent.
No doubt. But again, and why I brought this up, Jack, is because a lot of people, they say, Gruden doesn't know what he's doing. He's been there 3 years. He hasn't brought them to this, like he's supposed to bring them to the Super Bowl in his second year. I'm not surprised either. I'm kind of happy for him. I'm happy for the Raider fans that they finally got a competitive team. I don't know if they'll beat the Bills this week or not. I think they'll play them tough. And I think this will be a big challenge, like it was against the Rams last week for him. So I think
to Gruden for sticking with Derek Carr. Derek Carr had a little bit of a rough year last year under Gruden, and they brought in Marcus Mariota as a backup, but he's stuck with Derek Carr. And Derek Carr, at least to this point, very early in the year, the 3 games they've played, he's rewarded John Gruden's faith in him.
I agree with that 100%. What do you think about the Washington team? They're not called the Redskins anymore. What do you think about what's going on with them over there right now?
It revolves around Daniel Snyder. Daniel Snyder knows the heat is on him. A lot going down. It started with the Redskin name that he finally, as much as he hated to, he had to give up that name. Otherwise, he was going to lose a ton of sponsors, meaning a lot of money. And also with all these allegations about abuse against women and so on. And if the investigations don't go the way Dan Snyder wants, he could be conceivably forced to sell the team. So Dan Snyder, to his credit, has gotten ahead of the curve. He hired the first African-American team president in NFL history. He's hired someone, from the gay lesbian community, which is a very good thing that he did. And, wants to get a lot of diversity now within the organization, change the culture of the organization, stay in the background. And with all these good hirings that he's made, it's going to kind of be a little hard to oust Daniel Snyder. It's going to enable him to survive this storm for the time being. And once he survives it, it gets down to business as usual. Of course, they're hiring a Ron Rivera when we talk about diversity. And we wish Ron Rivera well with all his health problems, even coming on the sidelines. And the culture of the Redskins just has to get changed. But while it's getting changed, and they're not a very good football team on balance, they have a very good defense, okay? A very good, defensive line and so on. So the building blocks are getting there, okay?
Yeah.
The building blocks are getting there. Certainly on defense, they're on the way. Offensively, they're a bit challenged yet, but it's a work in progress. But let me ask you this: are the Giants any more advanced than the Redskins at this point? You
No.
know, the Giant culture is fine as far as there not being scandals, within the front office. But out on the football field, they're close to being on the same level as the Giants now. I mean, they're technically ahead. The Redskins actually won a game this year and beat the Philadelphia Eagles, which was a mirage. We thought that was a big upset that maybe the former Washington Redskins, Washington football team, I'm saying that by force of habit, maybe
Right?
they thought they were better than they actually are, but it just showed us how inept the Eagles are at this point in the season.
Well, I think the Skins is fine, Jack. It's not the last day, so that's okay. That's PC. Yeah, I never liked Snyder. I think that I think that he's a poor man's Jerry Jones. He gets way too involved in the team, and he gets way too involved on the sideline and the
I think
players.
he gets involved in the quarterback situation first and foremost. One of the ways Ron Rivera got the job leaving the Carolina Panthers to become the Washington football team's head coach was promising that he was going to work in developing Dwayne Haskins.
Right.
Now, this is very revealing with Cam Newton. Ron Rivera, that was his quarterback for the 9 years.
Right.
Cam Newton was Ron Rivera's quarterback with the Carolina Panthers. They even went to a Super Bowl together. Cam Newton won an MVP award under, Ron Rivera's coaching.
Right.
When Ron Rivera went to the Redskins, you would think he would want to bring Cam Newton with him if Cam Newton really had a lot left. See, the two things happened. Either Ron Rivera didn't believe Cam Newton had a lot left in the tank, or he just couldn't do it because he had to commit to Dwayne Haskins. Okay?
Yes.
And so
I believe it's the latter, Jack. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard the story, but Dwayne Haskins was playing the Giants and got hurt during that game. And actually, the owner, Dan Snyder, called down personally to Dwayne Haskins without going through his coach and telling him he was out of the game. And Dwayne Haskins went over there and informed the head coach that he was not playing anymore. That's the truth. That's the truth, Jack.
Wow.
And that's how involved Schneider gets into the game. Now,
I think part of that was Dan Snyder was very heavily invested in RG3. Okay.
Right.
And RG3 and won the Rookie of the Year award. Right now, he's a backup to Lamar Jackson with the Baltimore Ravens, and he's the perfect backup for the Ravens. Perfect because he plays a style of ball similar to Lamar Jackson. So if Lamar Jackson ever got injured, they wouldn't have to change the offense to accommodate RG3. They'd maybe have to tweak it very gently at most. And RG3, took needless beatings. He was put back in a game where he was clearly injured and had no business being put back in that game. And then he got even hurt worse. And arguably, he never fully recovered from that injury, at least with the Redskins, he didn't. So Daniel Snyder could maybe see the same thing happening to Dwayne Haskins. He was being like an overprotective parent.
Yeah.
His heart was probably in the right place. But then again, the one thing you can never do as an owner, you can never meddle during a game. That's an absolute no-no. Even Barry Switzer said that with Jerry Jones when Barry Switzer was hired as the Cowboy coach. He could have Jerry bother him every minute of the day, call him, tell him what to do, order him, so on. But once the game begins, he doesn't want Jerry Jones suggesting what play he should run or talking to him, anything like that. That if he is going to be on the sidelines, not to communicate, during the game itself. And that's being, too much of an over-involved donor. But I can't actually believe, how could he actually call a player? Who did he call up and put him on the phone with? I'm sure Dwayne
Well,
Haskins didn't have a cell phone.
no, they actually showed him on the sidelines talking. There's a phone down on the
Yeah.
sidelines
Okay.
that is used, and whether it came from the box upstairs for his personal number, or if he went into where the coordinators are going down to the field to call down the field, he actually went down. He actually called down and told Dwayne Haskins he was
You
out of
should
the game.
never put a player in the middle, between the coach and yourself. Yesterday, I was starting to tell you a story. We'll talk about him another time, though, in more detail. Johnny Sample, who was the defensive captain of the New York Jets Super Bowl winning team, he was a rebel before his time. He went to one of these smaller black colleges. I forgot the name of it. It just escapes me this moment. Maybe it was Morgan State. But where they used to have the NFL champions used to play the college all-stars
Yes.
to open up the exhibition season. It
Yeah.
used to be a big thing.
Yes.
And it was kind of a fun game. The Baltimore Colts, Weave Eubank, when he was coach of the Baltimore Colts, he was also coach later, the Jets Super Bowl winning team. He drafted Johnny Sample, and he told Johnny Sample, they're going to want you to play this other position during the college all-star game, but tell them you won't do it. Because he
Right.
wants Johnny Sample just to play cornerback. And so Otto Graham, the coach of the college all-stars, told Johnny Sample, okay, we're going to put you at so-and-so. And Johnny Sample said, no, I can't play that position. I was told I can't, because his head coach with the pros told him he couldn't, because even though he was drafted by the Colts, he had to play the game for the college all-stars.
Right.
Otto Graham, the head coach of the all-stars, said, well, I guess, Sample, you don't want to do what's best for the team. So what happened? He kept Johnny Sample on the bench the whole game except for the closing seconds when the game was out of doubt. Johnny Sample didn't even get his uniform dirtied up. And then when the game was over, Otto Graham went to shake everyone's hand, and Johnny Sample wouldn't shake his hand. That started a major feud between Otto Graham and Johnny Sample that kind of carried over, ironically, into Johnny Sample's last game of what should have been a Hall of Fame career. He wasn't inducted to Hall of Fame because he was the most hated guy in the NFL. He made TV look like a quiet boy in comparison. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what happened at the end, when Johnny Sample played for the Jets against the College All-Stars many years later, Otto Graham was the coach of the College All-Stars for that particular game. And they were feuding, going back and forth all game. And supposedly Johnny Sample headbutted Otto Graham's son. And one thing led to another. Johnny Sample was out of the league. That was his
Yeah.
I hope I didn't bore you with that.
Not at all. It's very
character, Johnny.
Very interesting.
Loved them. They were best of buddies.
Yeah, they both had great, outstanding personalities too. Joe Namath, if nothing else, but not only Hall of Fame quarterback, but a great personality.
Artie Donovan, great defensive tackle.
Yes.
Legendary Baltimore Colt teams. Why I talked to Artie Donovan many years ago, I was helping write a book that appeared in German print. It was on Max Schmeling. Now, Artie Donovan's dad, Artie Donovan Sr., he was a famous referee. He refereed both Joe Louis's fights with Max Schmeling.
Right.
Talking to him about the Louis Schmeling fight, about what his dad was saying when he was at home, going this and that. So all of a sudden, Artie Donovan Jr., he had that funny accent. He did the commercials. He said, the game. Did you watch the game yesterday to me? And I'm playing dumb. I go, what game? He says, the 49ers and the Cowboys. What other game do you think? Now, that was a big time. But I was playing dumb. I said, oh, yeah. So I'm trying to make nice. And when Artie Donovan played, John Unitas was the quarterback of those Baltimore Colt teams he played on. So I say to Artie Donovan, people talk about how great Joe Montana is, but did they ever even see Johnny Unitas play? So then Artie Donovan starts yelling, Montana couldn't carry Unitas' jockstrap.
Yeah.
And then I asked Artie Donovan about Johnny Sample, who was on the team, and he said, I don't even want to talk about him.
Yeah.
He was different from the rest of us. He didn't get along with the guys. Blah blah
Right.
blah. So
Right.
interesting
Right. So
stuff.
it sort of reminds me of Bill Romanowski, Jack, and how much he was
Oh.
hated too. So
But
let's
debate, Mac. Who is
Yes.
the biggest shot artist of all time?
Sable or Romanowski, right? Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
great.
the,
So
debate.
I know we're gonna discuss this with Joe coming on Santo, but let's touch on it a little bit here, Jack. The Eagles going up against the banged up 49ers. I mean, do you see any hope for the Eagles to win this game at all?
Well, they better. I mean, but then again, the NFC East is so bad.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not out of it even if they lose. I mean, it was ridiculous last year. You know, an 8-8 record gets you there. And when you look at all the teams in the NFL East, wow, this sounds crazy, Mac. A 7-9 record might win the division.
shoot a
Because
six.
The
Yeah.
Redskins are going to have a losing record in all probability. The
Right.
Giants are going to have a losing record in all probability. The Cowboys, if they don't take off, they're 1-2 right now.
Yes.
Especially they lose to Cleveland, they go to 1-3. And how good are the Cowboys?
Yeah.
We assumed the Cowboys were going to at least go to 9-7 this year.
Yeah.
But if the Cowboys stumble the way they did last year, and they stumble throughout the year the same way, win a game, lose a game, there's hope for the Eagles. They haven't played the Cowboys yet.
That's very true. I mean,
But
you're saying 7-9. The winning if Dallas don't get their stuff together, it might be 6-10. The Giants, of course, their game is coming up. It doesn't look any easier. A easier game against the Rams. The Rams seem to be up to almost the team they were 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl. And if the Giants
on to the Super Bowl, the Rams.
If the Giants can't get it together, Jack, if they can't get it together, the running game, I think they got to get the running game going. I mean, they can throw 40, 50 times. It doesn't matter. They got to get some sort of running game going to at least be competitive.
I think the Giants are given a complete pass this year. I think their fans are patient this year. They know they have a new coach. I mean, the key thing is Daniel Jones's development. I mean, that's the key thing. If he takes a step backwards, then it's time to maybe start panicking a little because you're taking a look, moving forward, what the situation is going to be. You know what would have been interesting, Mac? Had Eli Manning not retired. Now, Eli Manning could have stayed on board as the Giants as their backup.
Sure.
No one would have minded having him as the backup. The front office loves Eli Manning.
He might have minded that, Jack. I think he might.
No, Eli Manning didn't want it. He said himself, it's not fun being a backup.
Sure.
Because Eli Manning, it wasn't about money. He made enough money to last several lifetimes. But
Sure.
Eli Manning, he loves football. He wanted to play, and he had a big taste of being on the sidelines as a backup. And he didn't like it.
Yeah.
He decided rather than go to another team, rather than uproot his family, from New Jersey, he decided, I'm going to just be retired and then basically enjoy life, and so on, which is, great stuff. But let's say he decided, I just like being part of the team, part of everything. I'll help Daniel. I'll be the backup. Think about this. If Daniel Jones isn't quite getting it done, would there have been some whispers or some hollers to put Eli in games just to try to win games? You guys laughed at me, you and Byron Williams, the relief pitcher stuff as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Eli Manning would have been your ultimate relief pitcher. If Daniel Jones is struggling into the third quarter of a game, you put Eli in to maybe give you a spark, and if they win the game the next week, Daniel Jones starts again.
Yeah, but you could have
a guy with the future.
You got to have a special kind of quarterback that would be willing to do that, Jack. I mean, I don't know. First of all, I don't think Eli could have done much better with the line it is right now. Anyway, and when you mentioned quarterback development, the biggest problem with quarterback development is if you don't have an offensive line that can protect you, you can't develop anything. Practice is practice.
Agreed.
Practice. You can do all the patterns, do all the timing, do all the different the routes, the routing tree the receivers run, and hit them on time, and to scramble off dummies and to make throws. If you can't run the ball, if you can't set up a play action pass, if you're just going to go back and throw the ball 40 times, and you're a young quarterback, and I know the Bengals have Burrows, and he's looked okay so far. It would hinder his development also if the Bengals don't start surrounding him with an offensive line and stuff like that. Right now, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones right now are playing on very bad offenses with a very bad, at this point, bad offensive lines. You can't develop anything there, Jack. So I know one thing about football is you've got to at least have a threat of a running game to pass. I've watched football for years, and there aren't too many teams that I've ever saw that can just throw and win Super Bowls. I've never really seen that. So
I don't think the Giant offensive line is terrible. I think what hurts Daniel Jones a lot more, it's the loss of Saquon Barkley. I mean, that was his major weapon on offense. So
yeah, but Saquon wasn't running for anything. He was running for negative yards, Jeff, because the offense
out of the backfield.
Yes,
he gave a certain threat that the defenses had to respect. Okay?
I agree with that to a point, Jack. But if you're running all game and you got -6 yards, I mean, you might hit him with a little pass out of the backfield and break one for 40 yards, but that's few and far in between. The biggest problem, and I know that the Giants they got a new coaching staff. Mark Colombo, I know is going to be a great offensive coach, line coach. He has been before. But right now, as far as development goes, it's hard for any quarterback right now to step in and develop when you're constantly on 3rd and long, when you're constantly have a rush in your face all the time. It's very difficult to develop anything.
Well, you want to hear the ironic part about it, and the jury's still out on Jason Garrett as the offensive coordinator of the Giants. We're rooting for him to succeed. But so far, the offense hasn't been impressive, let's face it. And he's the offensive coordinator. And if the whole year goes like this, you kind of have to wonder, would Joe Judge come to the conclusion that, Jason Garrett, a nice man, but maybe not the right guy to be the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean,
because
a
lot of it is done, Joe Judge, let's face it, his credentials when he became head coach of the Giants didn't come close to approaching Jason Garrett's credentials. Right. Jason Garrett, the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys for a lot of years. And Joe Judge was basically a special teams guy at New England for the most part.
Yeah.
So actually, Jason Garrett had more qualifications to be the head coach. Not that the Giants made the wrong move. I'm not saying that at all.
Right.
But Jason Garrett just concentrating on being offensive coordinator. Daniel Jones has to take a step forward. You have to. Because if he doesn't, I don't care how many good schemes you can set up, how creative you are with the offense. A young quarterback has to develop, first and foremost. That's your job of anything else.
Right. I agree with everything you said for the most part. The only thing I don't understand, Jack, and watching the games, and I see it, I know a lot of people that know football see it. When you have, and I mentioned this when Byron Williams was on the show, when they're stacking one side and they're bringing 3 rushers to your 2 offensive linemen, there's got to be an adjustment there made, and not after the game and not at halftime. It has to be made right away. I don't care what plays you're calling, where you either got to bring a tight end to that side or you got to bring the running back or fullback there and start chipping the outside guy, because in blocking, Jack, you're responsible for the man to your inside gap first, because he has the quickest route to the quarterback. So if you're going to stuff somebody inside the tackle and then put somebody outside the tackle has to take the guy to his inside, and that's basic football 101. And I really don't understand why the adjustment isn't being made during the game to chip that outside guy and maybe release, or to actually put a guy on this man and stop him from getting to Jones. And this is what's happening to him. They're stacking one side, or they're coming to the outside and they're running an inside stunt, confusing the Giant offensive line. So it's pretty basic to me. I'm not that I'm a professional coach, but just watching the game, it's pretty basic why these adjustments during the game aren't being made. And it's driving me a little crazy, to tell you
Well,
the
Matt,
truth.
there's something I've noticed, and this is just from a fan's perspective. And the fullback and the halfback, years ago, they seemed to be lined up differently behind the quarterback, meaning when the quarterback dropped back, they would be in position to block. It just
Right.
seems that right now, your running back is too close to the line of scrimmage. And when the quarterback drops back, they're not quite in position, your, halfback, fullback, to drop back with him and block, as quick. But no matter what the defensive schemes are, no matter how much they fool the offense, there's a big difference. They throw these same defenses at the elite quarterbacks. Okay,
Right.
the same defenses that rattle on New York quarterbacks, Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold, they don't rattle Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers the same way. And the defenses are coming at those guys the same way. But those guys can make the adjustments because I think it comes down to having the instincts, because the decision has to be made in a split second what they're going to do. They don't have that extra second to think, and adjust.
Yeah.
And I think so much of it is on instinct and so on reaction time. Okay. And they call it in hockey, the face-off, anticipation.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
anticipate when the puck's going to be dropped, and some guys are just quicker on the face-off than others. Not that they can handle the stick quicker, they just react quicker.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
those are definitely great points, Jack, and you're right. But these successful quarterbacks you're talking about, the Aaron Rodgers, the Patrick Mahomes, and the Russell Wilsons, I mean, they are protected very well. Their offensive line is I've seen Green Bay chip the outside guys. I've seen where even in San Francisco's and San Francisco's offense, where they're going to only send two guys out and then a delay guy out, because they're going to make sure Garoppolo's, who is not the greatest quarterback in the league, he's good, but make sure he's protected for that extra second, because, Jack, sometimes that's all you need. And what I see when I look at the Jets and when I look at the Giants are blocking schemes right now that are basic adjustments that could be being made. And sometimes that extra second that quarterback needs, that split second just to unload that ball, Darnold and Jones aren't getting that at all. And I understand that they haven't been in the league, and I know you understand, in the league as long as some of these other great quarterbacks that have these instincts that are natural to them now. But I'm telling you, Jack, these are very easy adjustments that could be made during the game. And I right now, for the life of me, don't know why, especially watching the Giants, why they're not putting an extra guy to that side, or at least chipping the outside guy to give the offensive tackles a little help.
Well, it's possible they're trying to just protect Daniel Jones also and not open up the offense.
Right.
Because if you feel he's not getting any protection, but it comes down a lot to having the weapons as well.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they are given a little more time than we realize, and someone's not open.
Yeah.
And then the quarterback has to make a decision. Either he's going to run with the ball or throw it out of bounds or try to force it in.
Right.
And it's
it's all about execution, Jack, on the offense. It's all about working. The line is the biggest. People don't realize how important that offensive line, communication, execution, all working as one unit is. And something simple as just changing the snap count might give you a couple extra seconds too, which, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is great at drawing people off sides.
Aaron Locke, okay, he's retired now, but when he was with Indianapolis, he was considered one of the elite quarterbacks in the league, even though they never went to the Super Bowl. And the reason they never went to the Super Bowl, Indianapolis had a horrendous offensive line, but yet he established himself as an elite quarterback for his position. Okay? But that's not happening with our New York quarterbacks. But in all fairness, Daniel Jones is only in his second year.
True.
He
It's true.
showed promise in his first year. He was drafted 6th overall. People questioned the Giants drafting him that high. But after his first year, no one was questioning the Giants anymore about it. So I don't want to hear them start talking about it now. This year, after 3 games, he's had a little bit of a rough go. But he's really still developing. So I'd give him a little more of a pass. Sam Darnold, it's in his 3rd year. He's making mistakes. And the great Troy Aikman said he's just not where he should be right now.
Yeah.
And that's scary when the guy's in his 3rd year. When
Yeah.
not where he should be right now, because it's decision time. Are you going to move forward with him being your franchise quarterback or not? You have to make a decisive decision. For the Giants right now, it's Daniel Jones, all systems go. But with the Jets, I mean, they're already talking Trevor Lawrence. And I know Byron Williams said when he was on, there's no guarantee Trevor Lawrence or any draft pick is going to be that good. Of course there's not. But, you know, you just think the investment it takes sometimes into trading to getting the quarterback you want. And it's... Listen, if Dak Prescott doesn't sign with the Cowboys, the talk is going to start about him coming to the Giants or Jets.
Yeah. Yes. Well, you know how fans are. They see any free agent on the market that's good. We should go get him. I agreed with you when they first drafted Sam Darnold that it was too soon, that he threw a lot of interceptions in college. And that the Jets might have made a wrong decision drafting him. And I've kind of changed my mind to that, Jack. I think that Sam Darnold is a very good quarterback. I still think he still needs to develop. And I don't think he's got the right people around him to have him develop. I don't think that he has the coaching staff there that really has any kind of offensive scheme or any kind of strategy around him that will make him successful. And, Jack, the wins and losses are not a quarterback stat. I've been saying that, and I know a lot of other people say that too, that is not a quarterback stat. And interceptions are very overrated in a lot of cases. Because to throw an interception takes a lot of things to happen. It's not just a bad throw; it's a tip ball. It's a blown route by the wide receiver. It's the ball going through the wide receiver's hands and going into another guy's hands. It's a very tough statistic for a quarterback, and definitely wins and losses are not a quarterback's stat because the whole team has to play well for you to win. But I do.
It drives me crazy, Mac, when they talk about elite quarterbacks and they compare them head to head, it makes no sense. They always used to compare Tom Brady and Peyton Manning head to head.
Right.
They don't play against one another.
Very true.
Tom Brady played against the Indianapolis or Denver Bronco defense.
Very
Peyton
true.
Manning was playing against the New England Patriot defense.
Agreed.
Going against Tom Brady. If anything, Peyton Manning was going against Bill Belichick.
I agree.
Bill Belichick against Peyton Manning. That made more sense. Quarterbacks don't play against one another ever.
That's very true. That's fair. And they tried to do that with Patrick Mahomes, and Jackson, and it really, the Baltimore Ravens defense played Patrick Mahomes, and the Kansas City Chiefs defense played Jackson. So, I mean, I don't understand that comparison at all. They say they want to look good or whatever, but it's just crazy. So with that, Jack, we've got a very special guest coming in today.
Joe Santoliquito of the Philly Voice.
Yes, sir. Sir. He's how are we doing today, Joe?
I'm doing okay.
Joe's not normal. Joe likes to sleep till noon normally. To get up to this show is special.
Yeah. First, let me introduce. We have Philly's Voice Award winner. Yes, sir. Award winner Joe Santaloquito, and thanks for coming on, Joe. And we know that you cover the Eagles, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about that today. Jack has introduced me to you and your work, and there's a lot of feedback. Jack, do you have headphones? Any plugs?
Do I?
No, Jack.
Jack.
We talk about me. Why?
Because the feedback's coming through back to my ears, Jack. See if you got any headphones to come on, any kind of earbuds that you could put in, and that may silence the feedback. So, Joe, you've done some and some really impressive work and insightful articles. Carson Wentz and Joe Judge, just to name a couple. I want to start off with the coaching staff of Philly with you. I really respect Doug Peterson and his staff, the job they did last year. They with all the injuries they had and everything. What do you think about Doug and his staff over there at Philly?
I like them. I think they do a very good job. They've done quite a bit with not a lot. I mean, if you remember the Super Bowl season, and as we're talking here, is there a way to get rid of this icon here in the upper right-hand corner?
Let me see if I can, Joe.
Mac and Jack. Here we go.
Yeah.
That's fine. We're okay.
Okay.
So, oh my God, I look a lot better than I thought. So, no, they have lost quite a bit in their Super Bowl season. They had lost Chris Margos. They had lost Jordan Hicks. They were really banged up. They lost a very viable Jason Peters.
Yes.
And so this was a banged up Super Bowl team. Still yet, Doug Peterson took a lot of chances. He was a riverboat gambler, so to speak, and a lot of those chances came to fruition. I mean, the whole world saw the Philly special, and that was typical of Doug Peterson and the kind of season. The kind of gambling and the kind of faith and trust that he had in his team to pull off plays that we all saw in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, I really following. I'm a Giants fan. Jack is a Jets fan. We're all from this area, and if nothing else for the Eagles, I'll tell you, the Eagles-Giants rivalry to me has been one of the greatest rivalries in football history. You can go all the way back to the '60s, and I really do respect the Philadelphia Eagles overall in their history because they've always been a lunch bucket kind of team. I mean, even when Cunningham was there, they had that great defense. They always had some kind of strong running game. They were a physical team, and they still are to me. So, and that's why I do respect what they did a lot last year.
A little trivia here. The only team to ever have beaten a Vince Lombardi coach team, and Lombardi was head coach in the playoff game, was the Philadelphia Eagles in the
1960
championship.
Yeah. So I understand that you wrote a big article on Carson Wentz. If you could share that with us a little bit, I would love to hear that.
Well, the story was posted. Actually, I specifically remember Martin Luther King Day, January 21st of 2019. But this happened during the 2018 season. The Eagles had been leaking. This is the season after the Super Bowl. There were some issues. And as Jack knows me very well, I mean, I'm a guy that sometimes comes through things and by things through happenstance. So after the Eagles lost to Dallas, in a very, very utterly forgettable game from a Philadelphia Eagles perspective on Sunday Night Football, national TV, I'm walking out with the whole position group. And so the Super Bowl happens. The Eagles win the Super Bowl. Frank Reich goes on to become head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator of that Super Bowl Eagles team. And John DeFilippo goes on to become the offensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings. John was the quarterback's coach of that Super Bowl team and had day-to-day daily dealings with Carson Wentz. So fast forward to 2018, and the Eagles are hemorrhaging. The Eagles are struggling. I didn't think the Eagles were going to repeat as Super Bowl champions, but I thought, again, based on how dominant they were in the 2017 season, and based on the fact that they had quite a bit of that nucleus coming back, that they'd at least reach the NFC Championship. And they were hemorrhaging. They were having difficulties moving the ball. Sometimes they looked very good. Sometimes they didn't. It was incredibly inconsistent. So they lose a very, very key game, regular season game, to Dallas in early November at Lincoln Financial Field on Sunday night on national TV. And I follow my story and I get all my stuff done. And I'm down there, and I walk out the garage, basement garage exit of Lincoln Financial Field. And here I come upon a whole position group of the Eagles. And I just walk up to them, and I know these guys, and these guys know me. I just make the innocuous comment. I mean, Grove's really blanking this up. Fill in the blank what I said. Grove's really messing this thing up. And that was in reference to Mike Grove, the new offensive coordinator who took over for Frank Reich. And the guys turned to me. It was almost like a Marine Corps drill outfit. Because, I mean, they turned to me, their heads in unison. You know, Joe, it's not Grove. It's Wentz. I'm like, what? What? Did I hear what I thought I heard? I said, no, Joe, it's not Grove. It's Wentz. He's blanking this whole thing up. He's messing this whole thing up. I said, what? In reference to what? Well, he doesn't see the field. He's not checking down. You know, there's guys out there that are other options, and they just went on a torrent of complaints. As many complaints as you could probably register in a 5-minute span, because then we all walked to our individual cars. So then I remember coming in that Tuesday after the game at Lincoln Financial Field. And again, some of those same guys approached me. They approached me and started to tell me some other things. Now, they approached me, and I'll tell you the setting. Remember, that this all began outside Lincoln Financial Field as we're walking in the parking lot to our cars. This setting happens in the NovaCare complex, not in the locker room, but as I'm walking out to my car, and 3 of those individuals that I spoke to originally a few nights prior, they come up to me and start telling me some other things. I said, okay, so I'm making these mental notes. And then they say, I believe it was actually against the Giants, watch, we're going to do such and such, such and such. Now, they didn't hand me the whole playbook, but they said they were going to run some things. And I found interesting that they did. I'm like, you know what? These guys aren't playing around with me. These guys aren't filling me with a bunch of BS. So I went one more round of them giving me information. And that's when I started to take information. That's when I started to deal with these guys in individual settings on my cell phone. Did not deal with anything, hardly anything. 99.9% of the reporting on that story was done outside that locker room, outside the facilities. And it was done individually. Most of it was done individually on the phone, talking to these guys and just gathering. So finally, you know, and I'm starting to tell my editors here at Philly Voice, I think, you know what, guys, I think we have something here. Something's brewing here. Something's going on here. And I'm also thinking, if they're telling me, they got to be talking to some other folks. So we were in a little bit of a rush in getting some things down, and I'm gathering some more stuff. And here, if you remember, the Eagles, that was the double clunk game, the double doink playoff game when they beat the Bears in Chicago, where the ball bounced twice off one of the goalposts and didn't go through. And the Eagles lose to the Saints in the playoffs. This was the playoff game in which Alshon Jeffrey couldn't handle a pass. It deflected off his hands as the Eagles were trying to go ahead and score. Saints picked off the ball and wound up going to the NFC Championship. So the Eagles season's done, and the dates are important here. The Eagles season's done January 13th, 2019. So 2014, as you guys know, after a season or after playoff loss, is clear out day, the day after. So I go in and I have some ideas and some thoughts. And there was actually even a couple guys there that day that I approached and said, listen, just want to run some things by you. This is probably one of the few times I did this in person where this is what I'm hearing. And some guys would like look at me and just nod and then do this. They didn't exactly answer me verbally. So the editor, Philly Voice editor, Evan Macy comes up to me and goes, and we're literally standing in front of Carson Wentz's locker room, literally standing there. And this is a glut. Understand in Philadelphia media, much like New York up there, there was at least 60, 70 people jammed in that locker room. There was far more media in the locker room than there were players. So we're literally standing in front in a crowded room, in a crowded area, literally standing in front of Carson Wentz's locker room. And Evan Macy comes up, gives me a tap on my leg, and then whispers in and says, where's it stand? Meaning, where's it stand with the Wentz story? It doesn't stand anywhere, because regardless of what I've done, regardless of all the stuff I've collected, we basically have a bunch of players complaining about their quarterback. I have no outside attribute. I have no one to turn around and say from the outside looking in, maybe there's some folks here that may know what's going on. And I had left 2 messages with 2 very, very key people, part of the organization. And one of them got back to me that night. January 14th, Sunday, January 14th of 2019. And I ran the information by this individual. We spoke for about 2.5, 3 hours. And we covered all the bases. Yeah, this is right. What these guys are saying, I don't know about that. And this is okay. And this is right. And that's right. So again, this is Monday, January 14th. And again, I had been taking notes. I had been transcribing what I had been hearing. And then I went into bang, full writer mode. I told the guys from Philly Voice, I said, listen, I think we have something here. I'm going to start writing this. So I started to write it. And then Wednesday. So we go Monday the 14th, the day after the playoff game. And this is going into the championships. Remember, guys, going into the championships. And then you have Wednesday the 16th. And that same source I spoke to Monday night comes back to me with another very, very important figure, very key figure within the Eagles organization on the other line. And had glowing things to say about Wentz, but did agree with some of the things that I had been hearing. So that's more corroboration. And then that same, we'll just call him my deep throat, my Monday night contact, my deep throat, calls me back up. He says, listen, here's so-and-so's email address. And he literally put me into the NovaCare complex where the Eagles practice. Now, this was this person's individual email address, obviously not his Eagles account. So the story is written. The first incarnation of the story. That story went through 5 or 6 different incarnations, but the story is written. And I literally sent it to him. I literally sent it to him and 3 other major sources of that story. This story was sent to 4 people that were involved in the story. And there was a total of 15, either with the team or associated with associated with Eagles in some way. So the individual gets back to me and says, the blank is true, fill in the blank, leave my name, the blank, out of it. And again, this is so we go Monday night corroboration, my deep throat, Monday night the 14th, 16th, more corroboration, and then January 18th of 2019. Even further corroboration. So that whole weekend we worked on this, and that whole weekend we attacked this, and we wound up feeling pretty good about it, and it wound up being posted and published at 9 a.m. on Monday, January 21st of 2019, and it spread like wildfire. Within the first 20, 25 minutes, within the first half hour, we had close to 17,000 hits. I mean, it just erupted. And I'm getting calls left and right. I must have gotten about 40 media requests. I think 35 of which I honored. I honored pretty much all the media requests because I know what it's like being a media person on the other side when you're asking someone to be interviewed. And all hell was breaking loose. Then I started to get attacked. I'm not there that often. I'm not one of the beat guys. I don't know what I'm talking about. We have people that have known me in the Philly area for 20, 25 years. Jack's known me for 25 years, Jack, at least, since we've been on the boxing beat together. And people that have known me throughout much of my professional career coming at me saying I made it up. Well, one, I didn't make it up. Why would I turn around and jeopardize my life, my livelihood, and my career? And think about this, guys. if I were to make something like that up, how impactful would that have been to me? I'm wiped out. I'm wiped out. I'm done. My career's over. I didn't make it up. I know I didn't make it up. Matter of fact, the very tip recorder.
So how hurt were you when Malcolm Jenkins came out immediately and said fake news when your story came out? How hurt were you?
Actually, that wasn't Malcolm. That was Lane Johnson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was Lane Johnson. Malcolm. Now this is interesting. So the story is posted Monday, January 21st, 2019. Right? I spoke to 8 players. 8 players on their offense. An NFL offense is what, 24 players? So that's almost close to half of their offense spoke to. Think about it. All right. That's number one. Number two, the day the story was posted, and we live in modern times. It's not like a newspaper where you turn around and you go over and you're able to turn around and if something's out there in print, it's newspaper stuff, it's over. It's in print. We live in the modern age of the internet. So if someone wanted to turn around and have something to say, bang, I could put that in. Here's something else. So I spoke to 8 players, 8 major sources, right? So we have 8. Then we have the 2 outside corroborating sources to corroborate what the 8 told me. Actually 3, because one of them is a major source, so we'll call it 11. So it's the 2, and then the individual that I spoke to briefly on Friday, the 18th of January of 2019. So that's 3. So it's 8 and 3 is 11. Now, the day the story is posted, I'm on the phone with one major leader of that team who cussed me out the high end. Blankety blank, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other thing. No one's going to like me. No one trusts me again, blah, blah, blah. And he's yelling and screaming at me, every curse in the book. I'm everything in the book. And I started to get angry at him, and I fired back and said, what the bleep are you talking about? Here's a chance. Here's your chance to defend your guy 11. Here's your chance to defend Wentz. And I kept on asking him, is it true? Is it true? Is it bleeping true? So I'm cursing at him. He's cursing at me. We're cursing at each other. And this individual, who actually I like and I highly respect, steps back and says, you know what, Joe? I shouldn't be cursing at you. He says, I should be cursing to the guys that spoke to you. This is your chance, I said to him. This is your chance. You want to defend him. You want to defend 11. We're on the phone with each other. It's modern technology. I can plug these quotes in the story right now. I'll attribute them to you. He said, nice, man, I'm not going to touch that. He says, man, I'm not going to touch that. So that's one. And then I spoke to 2 others on a conference call. 2 others on a conference call. Gave them the same opportunity. Now I went to them. Gave them the same opportunity. Guys, you got a chance to defend your guy. You're going left and right about him on Twitter. You're defending him on Twitter. Here's your chance to defend him in the story. Here's your chance to defend him to the writer that your guys, your teammates spoke to. Here's your chance. Man, I'm not going to touch that, man. I'm going to leave that alone. So that's 3 now. This is Monday, January 21st. These are 3 people, 3 leaders of that team. I spoke to 2 more leaders of that team that very day, giving them that same opportunity. And they too said no. Yeah. So now that's 5. So again, we have the original 8, right, guys? The original 8 in terms of feeding me the information. Then we have the other 3 on the 14th, the 16th, and the 18th in terms of corroboration. So that brings it up from 8 to 11. And then there are the 5 key figures of that team, 5 leaders of that team that had a chance to defend their guy, and they didn't. Yeah. So that brings it up to, and by the way, I include them. I include them with the other 11 people that I spoke to. So now we're up to 16. We're up to 16 different people, 16 different voices, 5 that had a chance to defend their guy and didn't, 8 that gave me the original information, and 3 major key outside sources that corroborated the information that the original 8 gave me. So I had my bases covered. I had everything set, and I felt really good. What I didn't expect was this tsunami of media that came at me. Locally, I was crushed. Locally in Philadelphia, I was lambasted. Don't know what I'm talking about. I'm an idiot. I'm this, I'm that. I had a good core group. I found this is interesting in how this went. Like the major beat guys, I'm not going to say they were against me, but I'm going to say they had questions and all this other business. And they're like, But some of the other guys that work for the suburban papers, for example, they all seem to have my back. I found it interesting. I also found this out later that I found out a lot of things later. that the Inquirer and the Daily News folks were living. That a low level, a guy like me would get that, and their beat guys wouldn't. I had some major allies here. I can't say enough about Max Kellerman nationally. I can't say enough about Marcus Hayes locally. Marcus Hayes first land-based at me for this, said I didn't exactly handle this well. There are things I could have done better. I'll admit there's things I could have done better. The Eagles came out against me on a lot of different fronts. The Eagles said I gave them very, very little notice. But I did give them notice, and I called them up 8:20 in the morning the story was posted, and the story was posted at 9 a.m., again, January 21st, 2019. But here's another kicker to that. And again, the reason why I'm saying dates here is this. And this came to me this summer. In a transcription that I'm walking out of. Guys, do you remember what you did like 5 minutes ago? 10 minutes ago, prior to talking to me. Do you remember?
Listening to you.
Did you remember just offhand? Did you remember offhand what you did? First thing you did in the morning. Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do. I mean, my short memory isn't as good as my long memory, if that's what you're saying. Definitely.
Well, what I'm trying to apply here is I didn't even remember doing this, but then it came to light, and I remember because I looked it up. I'm walking out of. I was one of the last people to walk out of that Eagles locker room on Monday, again, January 14th, that day, and I'm being escorted out by an Eagles PR person. As I'm literally going down. Some of the folks that were involved with this. I'll word it that way. Is this good? Is this right? And I'm checking their cell numbers and making sure their cell numbers. Some of them had 2 cell numbers. Is this a number I can call you on if I have any questions? And I'm literally going down each one of them. So an Eagles PR person comes up to me and says, Joe, you got to clear out. We're going to close. I said, listen. I said, I'm working on something with Carson Wentz. Now, Carson Wentz was made available by the Eagles in the locker room in front of 70 people, as I told you guys, that day, that Monday. In front of his locker room, Carson Wentz was made available. He spent about a good 10, 15 minutes with the media. And remember here, this is important. That story was not a story at the time they made Carson Wentz available. The other thing, too, is I'm not about to ask Carson Wentz these probing questions in front of all these people. Right. I'm not going to give up my hand. I'm not going to show what I have. Sure. I wanted something individual. Maybe I'm spoiled Jack in the world of boxing. Hey, I need so-and-so. I need somebody. This is something individual. Can I get him? Yeah, Joe, we'll see. Maybe I'm spoiled in the world of boxing, but here, so like I said, going back, rewinding, I'm one of the last people escorted out of the Eagles locker room that Monday, January 14th, after the New Orleans playoff loss. And I go to a PR person. I said, listen, I'm working on something on Carson. Didn't you get a chance to speak to him then, Joe? I said, well, yeah, I did, but, well, you had a chance to ask him that. I said, well, this is kind of deeper. This is kind of a little personal. Could you give me access to him? And I actually technically have it on the record. They said no. So we exchanged pleasantries, myself and the PR individual. Hope you have a good summer. You too. You take it easy. Hey, they had a great season down the line. And then I'm walking out of my car. I'm going to talk to myself. And then I get to my car, and I realize, by the way, that I left the tape recorder on, that my recording with the PR individual asking them for access to Wentz was left on. I cursed at myself. I was tempted to turn around and erase the recording. Then I figured, hey, some of these guys left some of their secondary cell numbers on my digital tape recorder. Don't erase this. And I just hit stop, and that was it. So my attorney says to me, a friend of mine says to me over the summer, he goes, Joe, the Eagles came at you pretty hard about you not giving them notice about this Wentz story. I said, yeah. I said, you took accountability for it. I said, yeah. I called them up 40 minutes prior to the story, but still the story was up. Well, Joe, you actually gave them a week's notice. I said, what? Huh? Do you remember this? And then he played the tape recording back over to me. I'm like, wait a second, you're freaking right. I forgot that I had my tape recorder on. He says, so you're literally on tape asking the Eagles for permission to talk to Carson Wentz a week prior to that story being posted. So the story's posted, all hell breaks loose, right? I'm being accused of this, I'm being accused of that, I'm being accused of hater, I'm out to get Wentz, all this other business, right? And the Eagles are mum, and this is also something interesting. The Eagles that came out in defense of Wentz on Twitter, They're the Eagles that were down at the Pro Bowl in Florida, which makes me really believe, hey, guys, we have a situation here. Can you talk Carson up? And I have a very, very strong feeling. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact that the Eagles told their guys, hey, listen, could you do something to defend 11 in some way? But I also found it interesting that no one turned around and said it was – now, Lane said it was fake news, but no one else really did. They defended Wentz. Oh, he's the leader. He's great. He is swell. He's our guy. And but they didn't exactly turn around and say, this is pulled out of this guy's butt.
Well, Joe, let me jump in here for a second. We don't have. I would love to have you on again, maybe next week, and talk about this more because our show's going to be coming to the end soon. But can you tell us where to go to get this article that you wrote on Wentz on the Philly Voice, the followers that follow the show, so that they can read this article that about all this information?
It was posted. It's still up.
Right.
It got millions of hits. And now, obviously, with him struggling now, suddenly I've been typecast as the Wentz guy.
Yeah.
But they can find it on Philly Voice.
Okay.
They can find it SANTO, yikes, LIQUITO. You have SANTO, it's LI.
Oh, sorry about that, Joe.
SANTO, LIQUITO, and they'll see it. But also, I also will say this. For the guys that I spoke to, and this is scary, that story's going to be 2 years old now. The story
Right.
came out in January 2019, and we're quickly approaching, thank God, January of 2021. But for those guys that spoke to me, I spoke to this past summer, and they said, hey, it's different, Joe, different vibe. I don't know whether it's the story that you did that it forced this guy to come out of his shell a little bit, but he's more accessible. He's a leader of this team. It's his team now. So, and one of the guys says to me, you know what? It was a huge story when you turn around and we were complaining about him. Hey, we have some positive things to say. What about that? I said, you know what? You're right. So prior to the season opener against the Redskins, I did a piece on how this is Carson Wentz's team now, how this is he's taken on the leadership role with the other leaders there. Now it's his voice. That's the voice that has to be heard throughout the locker room, the dressing room. And now suddenly, you have these things that were going on, and the stuff that's going on now is pretty much the stuff I wrote about 2 years ago. No one wanted to hear that then. Not many were paying attention. Nor, again, as Jack knows and you guys know, you have people. This was a story that involved a star quarterback of an NFL team, but it's also a study in today's journalism and today's media in terms of I call it entitled media, in terms of people that. Sal Palantonio or Stephen A. Smith or something like that. They write a story like that, it comes out. And it's okay. I write a story like that comes out. Well, you're not a regular beat guy. And as Max told me himself, Max Kellerman told me himself here on the show, you write something like this about Manny Pacquiao, people say, huh? What? But you're a boxing guy. You're respected in the boxing world. You're in the penthouse of the boxing media, food chain. No one's going to question that. I would say I'm middle class in terms of the football world, in terms of the football media food chain. But, because of that, because your stature and your status, people don't want to turn around and they don't want to believe it because it came from you. And secondly, they didn't want to believe it because it was the golden child. It was Carson Wentz.
Right.
It's interesting that if I wrote something like this about Donovan McNabb, no one would have had too much of it.
I agree
When you
with
come
that.
on again,
I'm going to leave that
I agree with that.
topic alone. But go ahead, Jack.
Joe, when you come on again, I'd like to discuss what you went through having your media credentials revoked by the Eagles.
Yeah.
And so on. That's a story.
Well, I'll tell you what, they tried to go after me. They tried to demean me, and well, they failed. But things go on. The stuff that I wrote about now, again, it's going to be 2 years ago. It's coming to fruition now. I mean, think about Carson Wentz right now. He's the lowest rated quarterback in the league. And if you read the whole story, the story's about this guy that had a bad season, this guy that shut himself off, this guy that needs some things to work on, this guy that, praised God and praised Jesus and everything else like that. Well, then act it. Then act like a giving, caring person. Think about the other people. Think about your teammates.
Okay.
So.
Well, Joe, we definitely got to get going. The show's coming to an end. But if you could, we would love to have you back on. If not next week, the week after, I'll definitely be back in touch with you. We really appreciate you coming in. great articles. I read a couple of them, and thank you for coming on, Joe. We appreciate it.
Gotcha. Thank you, guys.
So the great Joe Santoliquito, not Loquito, Jack. You messed up. You messed up that writing there. So great guest, Jack. Thank you for having him come on. All he's got to do if he's back there is click off his email account, and he's out of there. But he did a great job, and I can't wait to get him back on again. Very knowledgeable man. Very, very good reporter.
Hey, took us inside the Philadelphia Eagle locker room.
I mean, how do you get access like that from anybody? And that's a lot of investigating, reporting, and going and following up on things. You really don't see that too much anymore, Jack. They're mainly just talking about, the headlines and stuff like that. So, a real great guest, Jack. Thank you for having him bring him in with us, folks. We got to leave. We'll be back on Wednesday. Back with you with the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We appreciate you coming on, and you guys have a great weekend and enjoy football. Jack, we'll see you on Wednesday, and we're going to be out of here today, folks. Thank you very